Hi, my name is Katie.
I'm Lindsey.
I'm Dalton.
I'm Lewis. I'm Dante.
I'm Bryce.
And our diversity poster project was on recreational changes to leisure services for persons with disabilities. And we're going to start with some background information.
The 1960s created an uproar in the disability rights movement. Although women and minorities were being protected by civil rights acts being passed by Congress, the rights of people with disabilities were not protected until later. Discrimination against people with disabilities would not be addressed until 1973, when Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 became law. This was the first act to be passed in favor of people with disabilities. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 was passed, and it's a civil right law that prohibits discrimination against all people in the public.
So, Chapter 10 of the 2010 Americans with Disabilities Act Accessibility Guidelines was passed. So, as you can see, the percentage of those with a disability in the U.S. civilian population slowly increased from 11.9% in 2010 to 12.8% in 2016. In 2016, of the U.S. population with disabilities, over half were people in working ages of 18 to 64 years old. Going back to the Americans with Disabilities Act, there is an area of this plan called the ADA Transition Plan. The Transition Plan focuses on the removal of structural barriers to provide access to programs and services offered to the public. A transition plan provides park and recreation providers not only with the detailed list of accessibility barriers, but also with the tool for budgeting, planning, and accountability. Intended as a public document, the transition plan shows that an entity is making a good faith effort toward ADA compliance. In retrospect, field houses, fitness centers, playgrounds, pools, and beaches are substantially more accessible and usable by people with disabilities than they were 20 years ago, but there's still much work ahead.
There are currently 54 million Americans that have a disability. Half of these people with disabilities do not take part in any aerobic exercises.
Some reasons for this inactivity include barriers within the recreational and leisure services for persons with disabilities. However, efforts have been made to increase the participation of people with disabilities in these different programs. All of the equipment used to provide a comfortable recreational experience can be obtained with the help of state and local government that offer assistance with paying for or renting the specialized equipment to people with disabilities. These accommodations have made it clear that there are positive efforts being made to include as many people with as many different disabilities as possible. Funding, however, can create issues when it comes to fully breaking down these barriers. The ADA has made efforts to increase funds, but unfortunately, the maximum expenditure for businesses, including recreational and leisure facilities, is only $10,250. This means that any construction or efforts made must be done with ease or without difficulty. Now, let's take a look at some programs that have effectively knocked down some of these barriers, as well as make great strides for the needs and wants of people with disabilities.
Programs that already exist and are offered to combat the negative effects a person may experience from a disability are listed here. These examples showcase how leisure services have accommodated those with disabilities to be included in everyday activities by creating and offering these programs across the nation. We feel it was important to include these examples because it shows what kind of programs are out there for leisure services to connect with. If there was a program or a program manager didn't have the means to host a new program, they could contact one of these organizations and have them come and offer their services. This creates opportunities for smaller communities that have people with disabilities to get connected in a recreation setting.
We're going to be talking about the 3 recommendations for this topic. First off, we feel that leisure service providers should implement a 10-year plan to slowly incorporate programs and facilities that are tailored to those with disabilities. By creating a plan such as this, they will be able to cost efficiently stay up to date with ADA standards and provide opportunities for people with disabilities as a common courtesy to the community.
Our second recommendation for this topic deals with funding. Funding is currently only for businesses, recreational facilities that are readily available, meaning removing barriers and creating a more accessible facility must be done with ease or without difficulty, as stated earlier. If more funding is provided for programs that have other areas of improvement that cannot be done with ease, then more doors would open for people to come and enjoy more recreational programs in their community.
Lastly, we think it would be beneficial for leisure services to provide providers to get into contact with government agencies that already host pre-existing events for those with disabilities. This would encourage them to get involved even if they can't offer a program right away. This will also allow people with disabilities to see that efforts can be made for them to participate in recreational activities that they have been able to be a part of in the past. Getting them to come to a local community that doesn't offer a program like that already would be extremely beneficial.
Thank you for listening to our presentation.